right? So,
last time was felt.
I'm looking. Do you have a lot
This year we have another,
you have them digital.
you guys that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have digital?
Oh, more?
But I might have. What's the new one?
Classmates. That one right there.
Did the outdoor one? He won it in a, outside. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to say.
I don't know. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway.
There was a. Because I think my reply was shaking. Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a beer distributor did a giveaway. So like, you know, you could use that.
I'm kidding.
No, you aren't.
I know. Just for us.
He handed one of my other buddies, and he won.
I never do that.
Just knew he was.
I might have just thought of it right now. I didn't know
Good. Normally we're shifted.
Oh, I feel yeah. Funny is though. Yeah. That's why I asked Nyla.
So.
Okay. All right, and I'm going to introduce. I'll say a little bit.
All right, is everybody over there with Zoom ready? Okay. Well, why don't we get started then? Thank you, everyone. It's so nice to see you guys. It really is. Like, you know, we do a lot of hard work back in our office and get, you know, blood, sweat, tears into this program. And it's just nice to be able to see everybody now and then to know that our hard work is paying off down at the district level. You know, last month we brought a vendor forward to show you what their newest stuff is. And we really wanted to make sure we got OdysseyWare in at the beginning of the school year. I can say that I really very, very much am impressed with the quality of the curriculum and the level of support. We have literally, we're just talking about it yesterday, have not received barely any phone calls about how to use OdysseyWare, or students have not been calling of confusing on how to navigate. So the support aspect of receiving calls and supporting districts are pretty low for OdysseyWare. Now, we don't have a lot of people using them. We have 250 students or 250 enrollments across the consortium, but that's a chunk of students. So that the fact that we're seeing 0 ticket items is pretty kind of amazing. Like, doing this for 10 years, that has never happened. So that alone says a lot. Their site isn't going down. We're not having blackouts. They have NCAA. Just putting that out there, planting a seed to think about. Maybe next year you might want to, you know, think about some other courses with the different vendor that we have here. OdysseyWare has a huge wealth of information to share. They have different product lines. Tasha from OdysseyWare, you guys might have remember her from last spring because they came out. And I wasn't available to be here physically, but I think I had a sick kid or something. Is going to show you some things, but they now have a blended learning platform that she's going to briefly touch upon, and we're working out the pricing on that. They have the CTEs, they have career pathways, they have many different levels of academic levels for students. There's more than you even have exposure to right now, because for the sake of simplicity of working with a new vendor, we limited some of the levels to coincide with what you're used to: comprehensive, foundations, credit recovery, and then there's a couple more levels. There's the PACE one. What's it?
Pacing Plus.
Thank you, whoever that was.
It's Elmer.
Oh, hey,
how are you?
It's the random voice.
I just finished with Jen up here, so they will join you.
Fantastic. So Pacing Plus, but there's still, I believe, 2 more levels that we didn't even make available to you guys this year, because we wanted to keep this integration and new vendor as simple as possible. But those extra academic levels may help you address students when it comes to rigor. If students are feeling that the comprehensive level is too rigorous, there's some other levels. But right now, you still have plenty to play around with. Please remember that only comprehensive have NCAA. That's very consistent to what you're familiar with Edison. So again, we were trying to make it as simple as possible for our first year. There's also quite a few CTE courses that weren't made available to you as from my choice, because they didn't have PA certified teachers. I'm going to tell you, this is such a non-issue. It does not matter if they have PA certified. They are certified in their subject area, and it doesn't even make a difference when it's reported to PIMS, because you're putting in a generic code. However, I know some of you guys in your districts and your superintendents want to be able to say that all your teachers are PA certified. So again, for this first year, for simplicity and less confusing, we left out those courses, but we will be adding them next year, and we'll have it denoted in some way that you know there is a certified teacher. It just may not be PA certified, and then you can choose if you want to use those courses or not. So just know that we did do a little streamlining for the start of this year and to keep things easy, because this is a different vendor than you're used to. And we didn't want to have roadblocks, as many roadblocks as we could. We wanted to eliminate them so that you would try them out. And please think about it, especially as you know the history of some of the things I just shared with some of our other vendors. We have a very stable relationship with OdysseyWare that I think is worthwhile you looking into. So I'm going to hand it over to you now.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Holly. All right, so my name, I'm going to try to stay out of this light. My name is Tasha Bogle with OdysseyWare. On the phone, we have Elmer. I think you heard him. Say hi, Elmer. So Elmer. So Elmer is the.
Hi, Elmer. I'm driving, so I have it on mute at the same time. Sorry.
All right. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Incredibly closely with Holly and her team. Fabulous team, by the way. We, just as Holly has shared that she's excited about this partnership, we are also very excited about this partnership and for where it can go. I'm going to share just a couple data points with you as well for those students that Holly mentioned that are currently enrolled with OdysseyWare. But before we do that, I want, one of the questions that came to me, oh, did I shut this down? On, click. See, this is why.
See? Are you earning this key?
So, want to give you an idea of who we are as a company. One of the questions that came to me when I was at another IU is, like, a lady raised her hand and stopped me in about 15 minutes in and said, hold on, who are you? What do you do? And so I said, let me back up and kind of level set. So for those of you that don't know us, we are OdysseyWare. We work to really support the whole learner. You can see up here in the my right-hand corner, OdysseyWare Academy and Virtual Services, where we come alongside, help support those kids, provide those teachers, provide that quality curriculum, take care of the grading and the feedback, really very much so a turnkey solution alongside Keola and their support staff. Then you've got on the other side, the core and elective courses, credit recovery, CTE, assessment and test prep, over 80 CTE courses from 16 different clusters. We're really excited to be able to offer these courses to your students. Down here on the bottom are professional learning services. It's really important to note that everything we do, we work hand in hand with Keola. Yeah. We come right alongside and make sure that launch, whether it be from the student to the school, even to the parents, that we make sure that you have a solid launch, and we do that alongside Keola. And then our curriculum and assessment partnerships with BASE and NWEA. I will touch on BASE towards the end of our presentation. I am going to be very mindful of time. We've got about 45 minutes, and so I've already asked Holly to give me one of these if we're taking a little bit long, but I do want you to feel comfortable raising your hand and asking questions as we go through. So a little bit about OdysseyWare. We've been around for over 40 years. We've actually been in Pennsylvania going on 15 years, starting out with just our standard digital content, going into about 10 to 11 years with our virtual services. So we've got a great footprint here, and looking to even expand that more with the partnership here with Keola. But a couple of things to keep in mind. Holly mentioned that we've had very few technical tickets. OdysseyWare takes a lot of pride in listening to our customers, listening to our partners and our students, and then producing on the feedback we get. When we look at just a couple of the things here, we look at the Java free. We want to take away any of those barriers that present themselves in front of students. We do not want them throwing in the towel. So Java free means that you don't have to worry about any of those plugins. We look at HTML5 compliant. That means that your kids can work from any device, whether it's an iPad, a laptop, a desktop, even their phones. They can work from those. We have our PA highly qualified and certified teachers. 95% renewal rate. That means that when partners come with OdysseyWare and with Keola, that means that they're going to stay. We're going to listen to your needs, and we're going to produce your feedback. So we won't go over all of these, but just a few of those. Oh, the cloud-based is also huge. Your kiddos can work from anywhere, as long as they have an internet connection. So these are the things that we are going to touch on. I know it's a lot in 45 minutes, but I would like to just get from you your goal, because oftentimes we walk into these presentations and I've got an agenda, but if it's not what you need, then I want to know that. So if just a couple of you could share with me specifically what you need to hear to know that OdysseyWare could meet the needs of your students.
Works 100% guaranteed on iPads.
Okay. So it does work on iPads, and I'm going to go back to Elmer. Carrie is taking some notes for me so that we can provide you some data on what you need. So I know that we work on iPads 100% all the time. That's something I will have to look into. That's a huge claim, but we do work on iPads.
I know one issue right now, and I don't want to call it issue, but we'll just call it that. Needing the advisor role so that you can get into the OdysseyWare platform and monitor as an advisor. They're already working on that. And it's already on the roadmap, and we will see it. So that was one feedback, and as well as having a parent role. We know that you can log into Genius to see the data, but you need that extra step to be able to get into the OdysseyWare curriculum. So that's being worked on.
Just a quick circle back. Holly mentioned on the 0 outages. Our uptime is over 99.9% of the time that's directly from our tech team, meaning that your kids are not going to run into issues with being locked out and not being able to work. So huge there. What else? Yeah.
So I have two things. How easy is it to use our own district teachers as graders?
Okay.
Is it pretty easy?
It very much so is, yes. So you've got a couple options here. The slide before showed that you can purchase just the digital content, implement with your teachers and your team, or you can purchase the actual virtual service side, implement it with same digital content, but with our teachers supporting. We've got a lot of schools that use both, depending on the need.
And wasn't OdysseyWare originally, it started off that you had to provide the districts had to use their own teachers.
That's correct.
So that was the first round was districts only could provide their own teachers. They didn't have teachers available.
How would it be if we were to switch mid-year from one vendor to another, one vendor to you?
So I can share from personal experience. So some of you know me. I've been with OdysseyWare going on 13 years now. I'm a guidance counselor by trade. Some of you have heard this, where I live in a very small school district. The guidance counselor wasn't going to retire for about 30 years, so I had to find another job and do so quickly. I found OdysseyWare. And so I can speak from experience of a number of schools that have transitioned mid-year. For the ease of the student and for just the learning process and just the ease for the student, I would say semester time. So you don't want to switch them. You know, they've been working in maybe Edison for the last 4 weeks. Now let's switch them to OdysseyWare. I think you could switch them, especially if they're not doing well and you want to try a brand new platform. But that semester time is really a nice, clean break. Or we have a lot of schools that will say they're taking their core classes, but they love the idea of taking a principles of coding class. Let's get them going in that course.
All right. If you could raise your hands, we have been having deep discussions with OdysseyWare. If they broke these courses into parts like Edison, would that be the huge change for you? Raise your hand. Would that make the big difference? Okay.
Well, I don't know if it makes a big difference because we do use a little bit of accelerated ed now in their semester.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got to get really, really more familiar. I guess I'm just comfortable with what I'm using now.
Yeah.
And it's easy because when I meet with kids, I can show it, boom, boom, boom. You know, the orientation is what it is.
Yeah.
I just really want to get comfortable with it before we start rolling it out.
Correct.
Everything looks great.
Well,
So,
we can help you do that.
right, and that's
Me
exactly
and them.
right.
Me and then I'll drag them along and
As
they'll
a
help
team.
you. Yeah.
I mean, the marking period thing would certainly help.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a deal breaker.
Not a deal breaker,
for us.
okay.
No.
What about you, Adam?
It's not a deal breaker, but I'm in the same boat Rick is. The familiarity is what keeps us where we are.
Yep.
Anything, and I don't want to say you should copy Edison, but anything that is similar, that is standard, like the parts, where we can easily say this is exactly how many credits it should be worth. One of our biggest headaches this year was when eDynamics took over and their classes, well, how many credits is this? There's not a part anymore.
Yeah.
And this class used to be a half credit for us because it was a part in Edison. Now they're saying it's taken the whole year. So we have to give them a full credit because their layout is from now till the end of the school year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We could talk about that later. It was not a choice that we wanted to make. So
Yeah, I know. It's just
I'm hearing you though.
some of those classes that have 27 lessons
Yeah.
that used to be a semester
Yeah.
are now a full year.
Yeah.
We've decided to match what the catalog says. So
So I hear you saying we've got to be able to show you why it makes sense and why it's going to be a better experience for your students if you're going to make that leap and say, you know, well, let's switch over. And so hopefully, you know, that's part of my job today is to help you see that why we are a superior solution. And part of that goes into just some of the stats that we've seen throughout Pennsylvania that I do want to share with you. So currently, OdysseyWare has been growing its footprint in Pennsylvania for over 15 years. We talked about the renewal of 95%. I know that it is a headache as a district leader to need to switch vendors or switch partnerships. You're talking about training. You're talking about learning a new learning process for your kiddos. I know that is difficult. But what I will tell you is that once you do make that switch with OdysseyWare, 95% of the time, our partners stay with us because we listen to them, we grow with them, and we work alongside of them. You'll hear kind of a trend or a theme today, and as I present, on how we have, again, produced when a need was brought to us. And I think Holly's seen that already. But most certainly, I get that it might be a little uncomfortable initially making that change, but I promise you, you will be happy and it will work. It will work for your students. 75% of our teachers hold an advanced degree, meaning a master's or doctorate degree. We take our teacher training incredibly serious. We make sure that we dedicate the time that they need to get up and running. Being a teacher in a brick and mortar is different than being a teacher in the virtual environment. We've got to make sure that those relationships are built, and we take a lot of care in that. Over 87% successful completion rates for those students taking general education courses. So when a student comes to us and takes a course and completes that course, 87% of the time they are getting a 65% or greater on that course. Now, you'll hear me talk about the IEP 504 arena today. We've had over 6,000 completed enrollments for students that fall into that category with unique needs. And we have an 81% successful completion with those kids. Many schools have come to me personally and others on my team over the years to say, we don't think virtual is a good fit for students with an IEP or 504. And I'll be the first to say it's not right for every student. But I tell you what, we have seen student after student soar in this environment when we look at their specific needs and we build those courses to meet those needs. So this is an exciting number. Right now, of the 250 students that are in Keola, we do have 91% of those kids are passing with a 65% or greater. We're pretty excited about that.
I'm seeing these for the first time too.
Yep, there you go. Impressive. Keola OdysseyWare launched from the technical perspective, and I will say we're not surprised because that's what we see from our other partners. Is that yes, are there sometimes technical issues, but for the most part, it is seamless. Those things you saw early on, the HTML5, the Java free, the cloud-based, those are things that we put in place to ensure a successful launch. So impressive there. And then right now, one of the things I always say, I have 4 kids of my own, and I share with schools on a constant basis is if your kids are putting in the time and working, they're going to be successful. The chances are they're going to be successful. Now, if they don't put that time in, there's no chance for them to be successful. Right now, 76% of your students are on pace or ahead, meaning that they're less than 3 assignments behind or they are ahead. So that tells us that they're getting in there, they're digging in, it's an engaging platform, and it's working. Any questions about that?
One statistic that I am always impressed with is your student-to-teacher ratio.
Yes. So in Pennsylvania, specifically, we currently keep that number from anywhere from one teacher to 100 students. That number varies. At one point, it was 1 teacher to 77 students, but we are very mindful of that cap to make sure that our students are receiving the best support possible.
And to give you perspective of how that compares to other vendors, the other vendors that we work with are usually 1 teacher to 200 students. So their teacher ratio is half of what we're seeing, which that's pretty nice. From a teacher, an online teacher.
On the previous slide, are you able to speak to a comparison for the current vendors? Now, I'm looking at the passing rate, and I'm thinking that is below the rate that we currently have with the other vendor that we primarily use. So it would be really helpful to have those things maybe side by side at some point.
We could have we do that for the next month's meeting.
Yeah,
because there's time to collect data,
I love
and the
that.
marking period changeover will happen, which that always kids crunch the next week. They'll get all their work done.
I think that would be really helpful to
Yeah,
have,
absolutely.
having these conversations with our upper admin and, with our board and thinking about
Us too.
making a little bit of transition, to have some side-by-side statistical comparisons.
Great, very good. Great. And to keep in mind here, this 87% is taking in all students. So you could have a specific school that has a model that could, and we had a couple that had well over a 95% completion rate. But then you could have others that are working in an alt-ed arena where kids, are very transient, and they could have a 50%. So this is an honest, true number. So I hear what you're saying. Great question. Just like to share a few of the current partnerships, and then of course we've got our Keola. What's really neat about these partnerships is that for most of them, our team, and there might be a couple that I've lost a little touch with, but if I see Red Lion, I think Eric Wilson. If I see Central York, I think Lisa Kornbauer. A number of these, so where we build those relationships with the school. And at Keola, I know takes that very seriously. You've got to have that relationship. You've got to have that trust, and that's what our team does. All right, so it really is all about the student. I want to go ahead and dig into the curriculum. If you could just show me, show of hands, how many of you have seen the Odyssey Word curriculum? Okay, so I think
you guys have, some of you have students working in this.
So it makes sense to spend some time, show kind of the way that, how we design the curriculum to support the student. But here is what Holly was speaking about earlier, about the different course types. And to your point, Adam, I think you said keeping it consistent to what you're doing, so it's not too much of a shock for the admin or the students. That's something we worked on. We started working on this back probably in April, May, June.
Long summer, lots of decisions.
Trying to make sure that we could meet you guys where you're at. And so the English 1 Comprehensive, English 1 Foundation, English 1 Foundations, which is the Pacing Plus, that takes into consideration because it is a rigorous curriculum, takes into consideration the amount of projects. It's a reduced project, so the kids are still getting the content that they need, but hopefully helping them to keep a little bit more on pace. And then you can see over here, this is just a sample, so keep that in mind. We've got over 160 courses, 80 CTE, like I said. But you can see kind of how we break it down: the semester, the year, the credit recovery, the NCAA eligibility. Again, trying to meet you where you're at with regard to your course titles and how you currently operate. Extensive course offerings. So our AP courses, and then of course our CTE courses. How many of you in here currently have students enrolled in AP or CTE courses? Couple. How many of you feel that the need is greater than you're currently meeting right now? Do you feel like every kid could take part in or gain some benefit from a CTE course?
Well, right now we have to. There's this evidence thing that's out there that they have to show proof of evidence, 8 pieces of evidence, and that's a big concern for our district because I guess we didn't lie on a survey or something, and we're going to be in the red this year because none of the Keola kids met it because we didn't know anything about it.
Everybody's going to be in the red this year. Don't even worry about it.
So now we're trying to move forward with
That's
a system that's going to be, that can hold those kids accountable for those 8 pieces. We have some ideas,
right,
already that we're in the process of working on, but I mean, it certainly helps. From what I understand, you guys that like tracks for us, creates a portfolio or whatever.
So you're talking about PA Chapter 339. Yeah. Yes. So we actually have a document that's created. I don't know if Carrie's on the line or not, but we've gone through and we've looked at the standards that are being asked and what you need to track, and then we've matched it to where those can be found in our courses. It's really, I don't know if you've seen it, Holly. Awesome document. We can share it with those that are using our teachers or just using the standard content. So we've put that time in to make that happen. Another, as I talked about that theme, example of schools coming to us saying, this is what the need is. How can you help us? So we've got you covered. And actually that will come up, the PA Chapter 339 here in a minute. But just a list of some of the career and technical education courses that we have. PA Chapter 339. So what you were just referencing, we're able to support you. All right, so let's talk just a little bit before we jump into the curriculum. And let's, if you don't mind, you want me done by 10 to?
That would be nice.
Or 45 to, or 15 to.
10 to.
10 to?
'cause
Okay.
I talk a little.
All
so.
right, perfect. All right, so when we talk about the successful launch, you can see here, these are all the pieces that kind of fall into place to support that student and support you and your districts and alongside Paola. So from implementation planning to phone and email support, grading and feedback, office hours, the Paola supports, registration and enrollment, technical support. All of these come together to support the student learning, and all of these come together to remove any barriers that could get in the way of that student's learning. And then along with our office hours, each student that is enrolled has a teacher that is highly qualified and certified that holds office hours where they can reach out and get support on top of, I know, the support that you offer in Paola. All right. The prescriptive pathways. I've heard from a number of folks that this is very exciting. I won't take too long on it. But this allows for us to really look at every student as unique. So you could have, we'll use my kids, you could have a Peyton and you could have a Porter. And a Peyton on the passing side takes that test, knocks it out of the park, moves right on to the Unit 2 pretest. Now Porter, on the other side, struggles just a little bit more. But he has mastered a few items. So you can see here, he didn't pass the pretest, but we created a prescription of what he does need to take, what he yet still needs to master, and now he's taking the post-test and on to the next pretest. So every student's curriculum is designed for that student. And this would be in our credit recovery or our prescriptive mode. So just by show of hands, how does that sound to you? Does it sound like something your students could benefit from? Or nods? Nods work too.
I got a question.
Yeah.
This, you're saying, is for credit recovery? It's not like your standard class?
Correct.
Okay. Because I was misunderstanding. I thought a standard class, you open with a pretest.
Oh, no.
When you started this, and I'm like, so that kid takes that pretest and could skip however many lessons to the next
This is
unit.
credit, yep, so thank you for pointing that out. No,
Okay.
this is credit for recovery. So a kid that's already gone through it, struggled, missed a few of the standards, and now all of a sudden, instead of him having to or her having to retake the entire course, we can be very prescriptive on what they're going to need to take. And I don't know how, you have schools using this portion right now, or we can take a look at that?
Not yet.
Okay.
We, you know, the biggest enrollment credit card we see is over summer school, and we weren't with, you know, we were integrating
Still
over
getting
summer.
going.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you might see some over there this year. We have a few schools that do credit cover year round, so yeah, they might be interested now.
All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so this is just a quick sample of our extended services summary sheet. And this is how we support our 504 or IEP students. This, for me, is an incredibly exciting, and I've gotten the same feedback from others, that we can now support those students that we thought we couldn't in a virtual environment or in the classroom. I think it was Jen shared, can this be used just in the classroom without our teachers? Absolutely. But with the extended services, essentially you come to us, you show us what you need, we have a conversation, we talk about how we can support that student, and we do it hand in hand with you. How many of you right now have students with IEPs or 504s that are working in the virtual arena?
Any virtual arena or with Odyssey?
Any at this point? Any at this
All
point?
of them should have their hands up.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
And how is that working?
Well, most of our kids that we approve for that, there's like a process. If a kid has an IEP in our district, there's a team that reviews all that. Most of the time, that kid is working in a setting where they have support right there with a ES teacher or you know, whatever. Like, it's just not a work at home.
Okay. Okay.
That's how most of the time. There are some rare exceptions over the last 10 years, but
Okay.
so that's how we do it.
Okay. Anyone else? So typically, would you say for most of you, those kids are still on site? Okay.
We have,
No,
we,
you do have
we
some that
have
are?
quite a few IEP students.
We have a lot
Students
who have IEPs who are not on site.
Okay. And are they finding success right now?
Some. We have definitely stepped up our IEP revision and writing process to include requirements that they come into the building to meet with their ES
Yeah, you
teacher
got to check in.
on a
Like
regular
we'll
basis.
have there's an exception right now with a young person who comes to our night school either a Wednesday or a Thursday to meet with. We have 2 special ed teachers that work in our night school that are certified in different subjects, so they'll come in during that time frame.
Okay.
That's part of their revision or whatever.
Okay.
So
Well, and just so that you know, we do similar to what you're sharing here. This document and the team that supports these students does the same. They sit down and really look at each student's unique needs, and then how do we build that curriculum, modify, accommodate best for that student. And again, it goes back to that over 6,000 enrollments, 81 plus completion rate there. So now the exciting part, let's go ahead and hop into the curriculum. For this, I'm gonna sit down and log in here. All right, so when a student, or when you choose to use OdysseyWare, the process that you're following right now, my understanding, Holly, is that they are still logging in through their Genius, and then it takes them right to the OdysseyWare.
We worked very hard on the integration.
Yep.
That was the bulk of our summer.
It was. Because we wanted to, make sure that it was seamless for y'all. All right, so I have
a blur. It really was a blur of OdysseyWare meetings.
So, 1 second here. So as soon as a student logs in, there's actually a video that student will watch. Here it is. That kind of walks them through what to expect with OdysseyWare. We do not go into it blind, just assuming Johnny's going to log in and know what to do. Most of our kids are digital natives. They're great with technology, but we still want to prepare them and help them feel confident in navigating the portal. So there's an orientation that walks them through what to expect. And we're going to start with these bars up here at the top. So we've got our help button. This help button allows for, you can see the facts and questions, what's new, some resources. I said early on that we work really hard to take those barriers out from in front of kids, and this is one of the other tools that we put in place to help with that. At the click of a button, they can get help with understanding how to use their coursework, with understanding what the different tools are. They're able to really get that support in real time when they need it. Our messaging system here, this allows for the students to communicate back and forth with their teachers. I always say there's no reason a student shouldn't be able to get the help that they need when they need it, because that phone number is plastered everywhere. They should always know where to go and how to get the support that they need. And then there's the Learn button, and this is where students go to actually complete their work. I'm going to back up real quick. This messaging tool acts just like an email, so they can communicate that way with their teachers, along with the office hours that the teachers hold. So let's go ahead and hop into the curriculum. You can see that there are multiple ways of looking at the coursework. So we've got by assignment, and we've got by course. You can see here 2 different scores. And this is another, going back to that theme, listening to our partners and producing what they're asking for. We've got our current score, we've got our score to date. Huge difference in the two. For some time, what we were doing is just showing the current score. So Johnny goes in, completes an assignment, and gets a 99 or 91.3%. Awesome. That looks great. Parents think it looks great. The partner thinks it looks great. But actually, Johnny is 99, 10, 20 assignments behind. So his real score is about zilch. And so it's really taking those 2 pieces and putting them together, understanding, you know what, Johnny, the work you're doing is excellent, but you're not doing enough of it. And we can tell that because of score to date. So this is something that we receive feedback from. Current score isn't relevant in this model. We need to have that score to date. All right, so let's go ahead. Please feel free to stop me as I'm working through here and ask any questions. All right, so we're gonna hop into our algebra course. One of the things as I'm kind of navigating through that I want you to notice is the consistency. From lesson to lesson, from course to course, when your students log in, the look and feel is gonna be the same. It's not gonna be something for history and then it's gonna look different for math, and expectations are gonna be different for science. It's going to come together so that they always know what to expect when they open up a course. You'll also notice the color coding onto the side. I can think of kids in my mind where the color coding wouldn't really matter. Then I think of other kids that are going to love this because they know, all right, this is blue, this is a lesson, I know what to expect. This is orange, this is a quiz. I better hold off and do a little bit of studying before I actually hop into that. Trying to really meet the needs of all different learners. All right, so let's jump in.
So is that consistent? Is it like every 5th lesson's a quiz?
it'll change. Depends on the course. Depends on, yep.
Or just go by the
school.
color.
Yep, so it can vary.
Okay.
Yep, but the colors will be the same.
Right.
But the number could be different.
Okay.
All right, so when we open up here, I want you to take a look at a couple things. One is we have our sections 1 of 6, and we have our questions 1 of 16. And then you see the different sections here. One of the things at OdysseyWare that we really try to do is to chunk the material to help keep kids engaged. You can also see they can jump back and forth. So instead of spending 45 minutes going through material, watching videos and reading, they can actually break. So here's section 1, now I can go to the questions. Here's section 2, now I can go to the questions. And they can easily toggle back and forth between the two instead of scrolling forever. Shoot, where was that? I can't remember. Now we make it very easy for them, taking those barriers out of their way. Every lesson is gonna start with the objectives, and it's going to move on to the vocabulary. That is going to be consistent in all of your courses. Again, making sure the student knows what to expect. As we move down, I want you to notice, I hope we're up to, well, we have volume here, but let's check.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will need this, so I will, otherwise I'd say that's okay, but there's a couple other things where I'll use the audio for. So anything in the curriculum that has the little play button, the student has control to play. The student also, in all of the multimedia videos, has those are my babies.
That poor girl.
I know. Oh, trust me, poor mom.
Yeah.
My girl's the hardest out of all of them. All right, so another theme that you'll see with OdysseyWare is really working to empower our kids, really trying to give them ownership in their learning. I sat in a presentation yesterday. Giuliani, I think is his name. He's at the IU15 curriculum retreat right now. And much of his presentation was all about giving kids ownership in their learning, making sure that they feel empowered, meeting them where they're at instead of having them come to us. And the whole time, all I could think about was, it's OdysseyWare. So that really is what we try to do, is make sure that we're meeting those kids in where they're at. All right, so going back to these little play buttons anywhere in the curriculum.
Still not really proud.
You can click. That's okay. But this is nice. For some, we might look at it and say, so what? It's reading the word aloud. But I can tell you, for my 4th grader, who's now 5th grade, for him to be able to hear exactly how it is to be pronounced was hugely helpful for him for a couple reasons. One, it helped build his confidence. If he was going to ask a question, now all of a sudden he could say the word correctly. And he could also then have a true conversation with his classmates or with his teacher without feeling embarrassed. I don't really know how to pronounce that. That doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and move down here. You're going to notice a really nice balance of text and multimedia. Is our volume working yet, you think?
I just turned you up, so go ahead and check.
Watch, it'll be super loud.
Everyone get ready. And I can't speak to every vendor partner that you've used, but I can say that when it comes to OdysseyWare, yes, we want the kids to be engaged. We want to kind of come at it from a social media type perspective. We want them to be excited. But if all we ever did was give them fun videos and games, we'd have some big problems when it comes to time for those state tests or those college entrance exams. We need to make sure that they know how to read. And so you're going to see about a 50-50 of multimedia, some fun games, comic strips, that sort of thing, but they are going to be expected to read as well. Now,
How many parts in a lesson?
so it can vary. So we can have 2 sections, we can have 6 sections. So it really depends on the lesson. So this one, for example, has 6. I was just in one yesterday that had 3. But I will tell you that the expectation is about 45 minutes to 60 minutes per day in each lesson. We look at a semester, and I know that's something possibly we might look at. breaken up.
How many lessons in a semester then?
So again, it will vary. We figure about 100 for a school year, 180 hours worth of work in each course. So about 90 hours or 90 days per semester. So if a kid has one class, he's going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour in that subject per day in order to be on target. But that is, that can vary. There's no, the data doesn't say that speed equals intelligence. We know that every kid works at a different pace. So going back to my kids, my 7th grader could whiz through something in 20 minutes. My 5th grader could possibly take 2 hours.
We don't worry about, our district doesn't look at time. We look at
for
completion.
attendance.
Yeah, so Rick, I know exactly what you're getting at and your concern, and we have developed we're still, I would say we call it prototype still, but it's actively being used in some districts in this region to address, it's a report that can address that inconsistency of lessons per day. It eliminates that, and Dan can speak on it more after Tasha's done, because I don't want to take up her time, but that will eliminate that. It's neutral to any vendor now, so it doesn't matter.
Like based on percentage?
Yeah, and he'll talk about when she's done.
I kind of figured, that's what I end up doing sometimes, or not sometimes, but that's what in the beginning with the semester stuff with when they were all over the place with Accelerate Ed, we used them just took percentages.
Yep, that's pretty much what they came
Not
up
that
with.
I'm a math genius, but I can figure out percentage.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it for you even easier.
All right.
Nice. We do have, I was in a school on Tuesday where they actually, each week we send them a report and they do it based on number of assignments completed in a week. And so I know there's a number of different ways to do it. All right, so as we're looking at this video, talking about that really empowering the student, you can see they have full control of this video. They don't have to start and watch it to the very end. They can pause it, rewind it, come back, watch it again, all they want. Every video is also complemented with a transcript. So, you've got some kids, give me the video any day, I'll watch that. And you have others that really need to read it in order to have the content sink in. So again, they don't have to use this, but it's there to support those learners. If we look off to the side here, I've got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to be mindful of that. We've got a number of different tools. I'm going to show you here the text to speech. When you heard me say earlier that we have a nice balance, about 50-50 multimedia games, that sort of thing, to reading and text, for some that can make you quite nervous, because I know that we've got many kids that might struggle with reading, might get delayed, maybe they're not at grade level. This is a tool that helps those students. If you see, I've highlighted some material. This can be used from the transcripts to the test to the content and the lessons. They can use this tool. And you see it Speak As. There's going to be 6 different voices and fluencies that those kids can pick from and have this read aloud to them. And I want you to watch as we pick Karen. So it's very soft, but you can see the words highlight and shoot out as they're being read. So now all of a sudden the kid can follow along, hear it, and see it as they're learning. Again, all these tools are there. We know that not every kid will use every tool, but for some kids, this tool can make a huge, huge difference.
Is that offered in a translation to Spanish or anything?
It sure is. I'll get to that here in just a minute. So that same translation tool that you just saw, or excuse me, the text-to-speech tool, we've got a translation tool. We have 23 different languages at the curriculum. Awesome, thank you. All right, one more time here. So to answer your question, I want to plug your ears.
This is why he's here this time.
I love it. I love it. So when we go to this translate, you see we have 23 different languages. Any of the languages with this little speaker icon next to them will be read aloud as well. So let's go ahead and we will do French because it sounds pretty. So you see it translates it, but then it's also
Yeah, you see a lot of kids think it's time and waste on
Pretty
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's a really good feature, but
It's a great feature, but I'd like to limit it to only.
so now all of a sudden.
What if you don't need that, but you only need it? Could you like turn that off and only have it available to a Spanish, like, you don't understand what I'm saying? Because I can see some of my kids as being stupid and wasting time with that.
So, well.
But it is. It's true.
I
Now-
can see that too.
Now all of a sudden they can go home and ask for dinner in French and feel really good about it. So that's something I will have to look into. I will tell you, I've never been asked if we could turn this off, so I will have to look into that for you.
Not that I would, I'm just, that's not a big deal.
Yeah,
And I
but
can
it's, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Because they're learning, they're just not learning what they're
They're
supposed to be.
just- 20 languages.
And
come
that's
up,
for all videos,
you're gonna
have
start
that
clicking.
same option?
Yep, so all of the material that you see in here, and this wasn't a video, so this was actually content that I highlighted. So content that I highlighted, but this show transcript, you can highlight, and then, so it ultimately is the video. Okay?
Actually, any
So,
text that can be
There's
highlighted
a number of other
can be
tools.
utilized with those tools.
Yeah.
Show that quick.
Can you just show them that the one that I think the one I like too is when they need help, how they can get hold of a teacher and
Oh, yes.
like it tags right where they're at.
Yes, so let me close this out.
And they talk about it.
Yes. So after a student has worked his or her way through and they get to the questions, now you'll see all sorts of different question types from true and false to drag and drop, multiple choice, all that good stuff. Short answer. The writer is another great tool. But when they have questions, they can simply go in here and say, let's say, this isn't making sense, please explain. Now the teacher will get that message, and that message is tied to this specific question, which is tied to that specific section. So all of a sudden the teacher knows without having to go weed through where is this question tied to. They know exactly where it's at, which makes them able to get back to the student with that much greater clarity and quicker time as well. So it's really neat when you talk about even a teacher in your district using this without the virtual component. This is really a great tool as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I just know that after all these years dealing with students, they'll send random things like, I need help. And they send the email. And
I
you're
never get
Wow.
those messages.
like, right? So
There's no messages, just
I just need help. You just do such an awesome job. Your students don't need help.
Right?
So I just think that that's a nice little transparency for the teachers and to know exactly where they're at without having to waste time digging through to figure it out or send an email back. I'd like to help you, but you're not telling me what you need help with and all that silly stuff.
So, yes, we get feedback from our teachers all the time on that. It's nice. And it's just, and that's something that wasn't initially built into Odyssey Where. We got the feedback from our team and they said, all right, let's do it. So here, this is the really quick, the writer tool, again, empowering the student, helping them take some ownership in their learning. This does not do the grading, but it provides some feedback to the student. It's saying, you know what, your grade level is low, your readability is nice, topic agreement is it's because it's just copied and paste from here. It's not making a whole lot of sense. But the writing overall is looking pretty good. So this allows the kid to do his or her writing and then get some feedback before they submit that ownership piece. All right, so just a few of the tools there. Now, Holly, let me know what you think because we just got a couple minutes, but I would like to talk a little bit about base. Okay.
Can I ask a question with the lessons? So with Edison, who I think is probably the vendor that most of us are using, at the end of each lesson, there are approximately like 5 questions that they do as a lesson checkup.
Okay.
Right now they're multiple choice. In the quizzes and tests, there are some open-ended constructed responses.
Mm-hmm.
This year we started using some accelerated ed classes, and their lesson checks are very different. It's through all worksheets that the kids copy and paste and then write in, and it's very confusing. So what I'm wondering, because I didn't really see it, is what do the questions in each lesson look like? Are they multiple choice? Are they consistent with every lesson? Are they worksheets? What are they at the end of the lessons?
So great question. So there are multiple different types of different question types. So you could have, I want to say there's 15. If Elmer's on, go ahead and correct me.
Elmer, I hear Elmer's been trying to speak, but because it's now connected to your computer, we can't hear him.
All
So
right.
there, I've done my public service now.
Is he there?
I was told to say something, so
Okay.
I have
So there,
spoken.
hold on.
So
You're done using your audio, right?
yep,
You don't need
that's
to
just
speak,
fine.
yeah. Okay, Elmer.
What's up, Elmer?
Yeah.
Hello.
Whoa, not so loud. What do you need, Elmer? What did you want to speak up about?
It's hard driving. What was the question?
Oh, we just thought you had something to say.
Yeah. Did you have something to say?
No, I mean, I've been listening along, and I think you've answered the questions, and certainly we're very encouraged about the partnership. As you said, very few issues, and even the feedback I got from a couple of districts using an IU16, one of the administrators said, well, I haven't heard anything back from the students, so no news is good news.
That is good news, yes. So what Tasha's going to show is another product line from Odyssey Wear called BASE. It's for social emotional support. I'm just giving you a lead in while you reconnect and do whatever it is you're magically doing over there. And this is also available. This is not in Genius, and I mean, I can't see in the foreseeable future we would put it in Genius. It's a separate separate site that students would log into, and that's Tasha. It's your turn now.
All right, so we do need to make sure the volume is up on this. So this is probably the quickest way due to time to get you really an overall understanding of what BASE is and what it has to offer school districts. BASE means behavioral approach to suspension and expulsion. And so this is going to just kind of give you an idea of what it does. And as a guidance counselor, I've said this many times, I don't know if my leadership always agrees with this, but I love what Odyssey Wear has to offer. I have never been as excited about anything as I am about BASE and what it can do for our kids. Because if we can't take care of our kids emotionally, mentally, the chance of them getting to that academic success is very slim. So we've got to take care of them from the heart. So as he's doing that, you have a little pamphlet in your folders there that it kind of goes over what BASE has to offer. Huge problem with drugs. We've got a huge problem with having to pull kids out of their schools and work with them for weeks or months. But then we put them back in the school and they don't know what to do. They end up right back in the system. And so there's a course that talks about re-entrance into a school. So there's a number from prevention to intervention that allows you as leadership and as educators to really help support that student from an emotional, social, mental capacity. So, go ahead. Does everyone have this?
I would say they do.
They do. There's a couple things as he gets this going.
Some need to be here.
There's a couple things in here that I find incredibly helpful. For example, one of the ones I wanted to show you here was the anger management course. So if you've got a kid that's in anger management, questions, everything that they write is going to be recorded. So if you ask, and then I say recorded, it's going to be traced, even if they delete it. So if you have a kiddo that says, you ask the question, do you ever feel like hurting someone? And they say, all the time, every day. Oh, here we go. Pause that really quick. They say all the time, and I want to hurt my brother all the time or myself. And then they delete it because, I don't mean to say that, and they just put no. You're going to get an alert. You're going to see everything that they typed, even if they deleted it. In addition to that, there's what we call fire words. So if they use words like suicide, murder, drugs, you're going to get an alert. We better intervene what's going on with that student. Just a couple of the features. We'll watch this in an end.
Yeah,
good?
me too.
Oh, let's rewind it.
All class.
So our next steps with BASE, Aaron and I are going to be working with Odyssey Ware to set up an individual meeting here. Maybe it's a lunch and learn, a breakfast. Usually we like to have food involved. And we're going to send that out to you guys as well as the CAP listserv, because we think the curriculum directors might be interested. Anybody, guidance counselors, man, absolutely. We will be advertising that to have them come out and do a special presentation just about BASE. So if you're interested, keep your eye out. We'll be sending that information out soon. Yes.
I'm not fully comprehending this. Is BASE like an additional class or something that the kids take? Or is this something where if I identify a student that I am concerned about, I can have them take all their courses where everything that they type in is recorded and the fire words? I mean, what exactly I missed?
Sure. No, thank you for asking for clarification. So BASE is although offered through Keola and Odyssey Ware, is separate from what we just talked about, the academic side of things. BASE is designed specifically to not look academic. So it is separate. BASE can be used, it can be used school-wide if you want all your kids to take, the digital citizenship or cyberbullying or self-esteem. But it can also be used for those students that are struggling with something. Maybe it's the students that have been suspended or expelled.
I'm the alternative education teacher from my district as well.
Okay.
And all of our curriculum for alternative education comes through Keola.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see this as something that could be very helpful if I, again, can get my head around if it's an additional class or.
Think of it as supplementary. So, they're still going to take their academic courses. This is something, this is
like an
something
elective.
else that you would assign to them. They go to a separate website. Your district can determine if you want to award credits for it.
Mhm.
Odyssey Ware will help you navigate that idea. And you must have somebody there checking on the students, reading their answers. This is not Odyssey we're providing instruction, or it's really base.
Yep.
You guys, it could be you, or
But-
it could be Luann, at Halifax. But you're the one reading their answers and then scheduling some intervention and one-on-one support. Did I represent that
That's
well?
right. Yep. And it does. It gives you get to decide the times when they can access, when they can't. Of course, you don't want a kid taking a course on suicide when it's 3 in the morning and you don't have access to how that student is doing. You get those alerts. Elmer timed it yesterday, 9 seconds. So you get to decide when that kid's going to work on that course, so that you know that you are capable, or someone else in the area, if they need to intervene, they can intervene. It's really helping to open up some great dialogues.
Do you know if BASE qualifies for the Pennsylvania requirement for the counseling hours for alternative education students? They're
That-
required 2.5 hours
That is
a
a great
week.
question.
That, I can speak on that a little bit. I don't think, unless it's being taught or interacted with
With
a
a
certified
psychologist, yep.
therapist, psychologist, I don't know if they're gonna be.
Probably not. You're right.
You know what?
I used to be
the
the
act
Region
is-
3 rep, that's how I know that.
Okay, very good. But I can look into it.
I know that
And they did away with us.
we're required that they have to have right now 2.5 hours, and they want to double it in the near future to 5 hours every week with
For each
students.
student. Now, group counseling counts, but
Yeah, of counseling.
it's very
with these
tough to
kids.
do in that setting. That's all I'm gonna
So
say.
every student, just in the alt ed, or just students in general?
Alternative education students who are in placement. So whether it's in-house,
If they're in a
like my
state
program.
approved, if they're in a state
Yep.
approved alternative education program for disruptive youth, state
Yep.
approved.
Okay.
Whenever you.
Hey, this is Elmer.
And the monitor, see proof that that your students are receiving 2.50 hours
per
of
week.
counseling per week. Now, group counseling for 45 minutes can count towards that, whatever. But, and the counseling isn't like me when I was running the alt ed or you gotta be a certified.
Yeah.
It doesn't count if I pull them out and talk to them. That didn't count. They gotta be a certified therapist, social worker, something like that, that's actually leading the guidance counselor, that's actually leading the counseling.
Okay. So I think in addition to that, this could help open up some really great conversations that need to happen with that individual.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the way I would see it being used, you could actually use it as almost like you could do it together, in certain situations as a group, and then have we have a social worker in our full-time emotional support building that could come and facilitate. And I could see that being counted. I could see that being, because it is, have the kids work on this on Monday and Tuesday. I'll come in and we'll talk about it. And then whatever they work on.
If I counsel
Pastor, can you hear me?
as part of
That's
their
correct.
time,
Like,
Thanks for
say
coming.
your
I'm sorry we ran a little long.
Supervised it,
The agenda for the other
but
stuff.
meaning,
Okay.
Yeah.
do these lessons, they work on these.
All right, so I think Elmer wanted to say
Now we're gonna
something
talk about it.
again.
That's how.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things regarding BASE. What one of the administrators said in looking a little bit at BASE, he thought even though they're called courses, it might be helpful to think of them as modules. So modules that you can plug in at any time. They're designed to be finished in a 45 to hour and 20-minute sitting. But obviously, a lot of these topics are emotional. They're very difficult for students to deal with. So they're designed for the students to stop and then come back at another time to finish them. So don't think of them as, okay, it's a straight 45 minutes and that's it. They're really designed to let the student express themselves as much as possible. Also, Keola does have a demo account available that can make available to you so you can see some of the modules and play with them.
And Elmer, it might be best, yes, we have a demo account, but I was thinking maybe we get you guys out here to see a full-blown presentation and then release
Sure.
a demo. I wouldn't want you to have preconceived ideas by just going in and playing without having it properly set.
Yeah,
So
and it's a very simple and very clear platform to work with as well.
At that point, it definitely is.
Odyssey where, okay.
So we do have to wrap up. I'm so
Yes,
sorry. I
no,
hate that I had to rush you.
okay.
This is the first year, like I said, we shortened this down to an hour meeting, but then I feel like we're not giving ourselves enough time. Last year we had 2 hours and we would always finish early. So here's the next steps. If you're interested in learning more about OdysseyWare, contact Aaron. He will work on having OdysseyWare and me come out to your district, sit down with you, your curriculum directors, whomever you need to hear the story, and that's what we'll do. And you just, think about this. You don't need to make any major changes right away, but maybe you should start thinking about what are your plans for next year? Would you like to try a different vendor? Start doing that now so that you're comfortable with Odyssey Wear.
Can you just finish, because we kind of got sidetracked, answering the question about the questions in the lesson?
Yeah, the
Sorry,
question
Holly.
types.
No,
the
that's
question types.
That's really important.
So, no, absolutely. So I know, I want to say 15, and I can get that number, but different question types. So you are not going to hop in there and have a student that has true, false, multiple choice across the board. It's going to be fill in the blank. It's going to be short answer, drag and drop, matching. There will be some multiple choice. But
Is it going to be through worksheets, or is it going to be built
everything
in?
is going to be included, and that's critical. One of the points I should have addressed earlier, it's going to be contained, everything that your kids are going to need. Now, you might have a kid that wants to rent a book and curl up with it instead of read it online. That's perfectly fine. But as far as what your kids are going to need, it's going to be contained online.
Thank you.
That's the
Thank
answer.
you.
All right.
Follow-up question to that one.
Sure.
When they're done with that lesson and they're taking their mini exam and they're clicking this to prove that they've learned it, how many times can they take it? Is there a set limit? What is passing? And what happens if they fail?
Yes.
So all of that is set up by the district. The school decides. You say, we want our kids to have 2 attempts on lessons, 1 on quizzes. You say, I want the passing threshold to be 80% or 85%.
Yeah. Let me clarify that a little bit. As we worked with Odyssey Wear over the summer, we quickly learned that there's some global decisions that had to be made that couldn't be drilled down to the district, and that is one of them. And we just recently sent it out in a weekly update, but we'll send it again since it came up. Brian, do you know off the top of your head? We even listed by vendor. 3 attempts.
And I think we 70.
I think 70. We'll put that out again. And we listed Odyssey Wear is this, Excited is this, because it's getting a little confusing with each of our different vendors. But it is not unlimited, which is how all our vendors are now. So it's consistent. Yeah, we
Apologize.
3 tries.
Can you repeat
yeah,
that?
it's okay. You're used to saying it differently.
Yeah.
Drive
Yeah.
with Odyssey.
So now what
Now
what
that
I'm
was set
hearing
up
is
by-
that Kayla has made the choice as to the passing threshold for districts and has determined the number of retakes for districts.
We had we had to make a global decision. It was not Odyssey Wear setup doesn't allow us to do it by a district decision. That might be someday in the roadmap. If that's
But other vendors are still allowing that option.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. However, the thresholds that we set should be what is in
They
place.
align closely to what the other vendors are
Correct. Every vendor now has limited attempts and thresholds, and these align right with all the vendors. It was only up until this summer where Edison allowed those unlimited attempts, and that went away. So all vendors are very consistent. We wish it could be customized down at the district level. Odyssey, you got everybody hearing you say it, so I love that you guys are saying everything I said over the summer. So you just are reiterating what I've been saying. I love it. These are the things that they want to hear from us, that it is important so that it can be changed or implemented. It just has to do with the setup of the program. That's how we're global.
Yep.
That's kind of the challenge.
When we were looking at that, I saw that there was the dates submitted and graded.
Mhm.
How would that go with our counts? Because there are a lot of us who do the lessons per week. How many lessons are there in a typical class? I think we asked that. What is it, 90 hours? But is there 90 lessons then, or?
I believe, and Elmer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen some where it depends on the course and the
Mhm.
rigor and the project number. But you could see some that have 60 and you could see some that have 100. So it really just depends.
Yeah, that's generally correct.
And when we would have it set up that when we run our reports through Genius, it would be the submitted date and not the teacher graded date that would count.
That would
I'm
be
looking
something.
more at the,
Don't
changed
I'm
that,
not
yeah.
the genius expert in this room, but there's
The date
a
now
group over
would
here
be the
that
submitted
is.
date in there.
No longer the graded date. We changed that this year.
Yeah.
I know it was for the other ones. I wasn't sure if it was set up that way for.
Yeah.
We've worked very, 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 very hard to make sure that Genius is vendor agnostic. So when people ask stuff and say, oh, I wish Edison did this, and we want it in Genius, we then turn that around and say, okay, let's solve this for all vendors. So anything that Genius does is accommodating all the vendors, so that we are moving away from solving a problem for just one vendor, but let's figure it out for all, especially for data. Any other questions? I'm glad you guys are asking questions.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Please feel free to keep asking the team. Like I said, we spent a long summer, meeting a lot with Odyssey where to work out everything and get it ready. And if anything pops up, let us know. Just ask. And maybe there's some things we didn't even think about yet.
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure.
All right, thanks
Thank
everyone.
you so
Take
much.
care. Yeah, see you there.
Yeah.
Have fun at Idaho next week.
Oh, not everybody here's going, so
Oh.
don't rub it in. All right, we do have just a few things of housekeeping to get through, and I apologize if the meeting's running a little long. Again, I've said we're struggling with how long do we have this meeting, because we tend to run long now when last year we were not taking up 2 hours. So one of the things that we've heard loud and clear, and we have felt the pain internally as well, is we need to refigure out a better way to do our course catalog. And we have a solution, but we'd like some input before we go further down. So Kristen, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so everyone knows that this year we did Google Docs, and we did Google Docs for many reasons, but it's just not working. So I am working closely with Genius, developing a course catalog website for the 1920 school year, and it will be ready for next year.
And it will allow you to print, for those of you that still like
Yes.
printing. So those were the two big features we want to look at of how do we still allow districts that want to print off a catalog to do that, but we also need to be web-based so that when it's updated, it's instantly updated, and we don't have to send out updates and things. There's challenges that we think we solved.
So this website can be accessed by anyone as well. It's not, if you have access to Genius, you can only access it. Parents can access this, guidance, whoever has the link can access this, which is very important. So this is a demo. So this is what it will kind of look like. We are able to choose all of our filtering options. So at the top, if you see search by course title, program, course level, we can change whatever we need. And I guess I kind of just wanted feedback from you guys as far as what you would like to see when you're trying to search for courses.
And we will not have teachers certified in until we start growing outside Pennsylvania, which could happen, but we don't need that right now. So that Florida virtual high schools nationwide, they have that. But it can be anything. I mean, we already know that we're going to want program and course level.
We're going to have vendor.
Vendor, so you can search by vendor.
NCAA.
But is there anything different from the catalog that you wish that you could search by that you are kind of always doing?
Description,
Description?
course description.
So
elaborate a little bit more about that.
Like astronomy.
So if you
Okay.
just
What
search
is
for
it?
the
You
course
click
title, so if you search by the course title, like epidemiology or whatever, and then if it'll come up, and then you just
Click on
click, if you click on it,
That's good.
it'll,
Pick a harder word to type.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like,
geez.
really, Kristen?
oh my gosh.
Rick didn't pick that.
I just enrolled a kid in that, so like I have it in my mind. So it'll open up into a new window, and this again can be anything we want. This is a template that I can design. It can do, just like what we have now, description, course prerequisite, materials, whatever we need. I'm thinking we're going to keep it similar as to what we have right now.
We were thinking searchable by CTE
Yeah.
or career pathways. I mean, you guys let us know. I know we're just dumping this on you.
We have it possibly searchable by the core, how do I say
The
it? The core
comprehend-
content,
Like
like
English.
mathematics, English,
math,
yes.
yes. So search by subject.
Subject.
Yep.
Core subject.
Core subject.
Core subject.
Districts online.
The career
Course
pathway.
catalog is designed by pathways.
Pathways. Okay.
Is there a keyword search on there, Kristen? I don't remember. If you had a keyword search or not.
We can have one.
Because that would probably be helpful too.
Okay.
Just can't really think.
As
So
long as
then-
the title
call.
as long as that link
Take
keeps
care of
getting
the math, science,
updated.
English thing.
So then the people who want to print, you really just will select all. If you don't have any of the filters checked, the whole catalog will show. You select all and press print, and it'll print everything as the way the templates look. So it'll be the same type of catalog, just printed one page, and the template will be on each page.
Rick, what were you saying?
This is really good from when I orientate a kid,
Yeah.
when they're not sure what electives to take. But as long as that link you guys send, that hyperlink is Because all I do is that link is on my website at school. You click on Kaola course catalog, it goes to you guys. It says high school, middle school. You click on that, it brings the course catalog right up. So as long as that doesn't change, I'm good.
What we'll do is we
This
will
is
give
really
you a
good
link
for
to
the
this
description.
instead.
Yeah.
That's good.
That
because
will
that
have
helps
you
me.
replace what you're linking to here. On our website, we'll link to this as well. So whenever time we update the course catalog, we then have to send to the help desk and ask them to update their website. You know, we're eliminating a couple steps. Yeah, we like this too. We think this kind of solves some problems that we're growing to the point that what we're doing.
I just
When
like
do
the
you
links. It's a lot
anticipate
easier to
this will be
find
released?
that class.
Next year.
Yeah, I like
1920 school year.
instantaneously just being able
Oh,
to find it
summer.
and see what it's
Summer.
description.
Might be done sooner.
versus-
Might be done.
That's what I mean. Is
Might
like
be
No,
done
we're not
sooner.
committing
start
to
of the
summer.
school year, or when
No,
we're
We'll
scheduling
commit
kids
to
at the
the
end?
start of the school year, but does it,
Or-
August
when
1st,
when would
2019.
you guys
Yeah,
ideally
August
like
1st, 2019, maybe.
Yeah, 'cause we schedule in, you know, like
I think I
the
heard a
end of the
question,
year for the following year.
Right.
Which we still can't solve that challenge of, we know you guys need to schedule courses in March, April, May, but we're always waiting on the vendors. We talked about that last time. What you can always do is go here, and you guys know the major core courses don't change. It's the weird electives. And we can't control when the vendors send us information.
So
Go ahead.
is it possible to get something like this, April or May,
We'll see.
Yeah.
with
Still
the
commit,
majority of
Kristen.
I think so.
We will see, is what the boss is saying.
I understand things can change, and if we're notified that there's changes,
Yeah.
you know, as the summer
Correct.
goes on,
We'll see. I don't want to commit to anything other than Chris and I know stuff.
there's a
and
possibility.
She needs to be quiet because I don't want to overpromise. I'd rather surprise you than, you know, not hit deadlines.
But there's a chance.
There's a good chance.
There's a chance.
Yes.
There's
Like
a
the
chance.
chance
Kristen is
nobody's
no longer allowed to come to meetings.
Oh.
I just know how much you guys need this. Like,
We know.
Digging your own grave.
We
I am.
totally
I
know. We know. And we will do everything we can to get to. But we're also dealing with Genius. It's not just us. We have to have Genius build it out. And we will do everything we can.
Yeah.
And it most likely will be available. Thanks, Kristen.
I typed it.
Now that's in writing.
You know what? I'm gonna
Documented.
say
It's
that.
recorded too.
Jen,
It's
Okay, I need to talk to my
might-
team
it
about
might be
promising things verbally.
Mary.
But yeah, we know the pain, and we will do everything. It's not just, the timeline's not always up to us. That's all. Okay, so let's move on. Colicon, please register. Early bird ends November 9th, and please register for early bird in order to get entered to win an upgrade. Many of you in here, I shouldn't say many, but some of you in here have gotten upgrades. I know they're usually nice, and an upgrade at a casino tends to be really nice. We also need you to submit for RFPs. So please look at the website. If you were planning on presenting last year, just submit what you were going to present last year, because you're automatically going to get accepted. That we're going to streamline those. And I know Holly's very graciously, I reached out to her with a plea and said, please, please, please. So she's already registered to present. We as a team internally came up with a short list of what we would like to see, like a session on PIMS. Maybe NCAA, but I really am hesitant to go there because I don't want to draw undue attention to our programs. It's not needed. And there's quite a few other things, some trainings, but let us know what you would like to see so that we can help tailor the conference, or please present. This is free. We ask very little from our people, and this is one of those things, please present. It's a national conference. You now can put on your resume you presented at a national conference, you get national attention. People from the nation will be coming to sit in on your session possibly, which gives your school more prompts. There's lots of perks to presenting at this conference. Because we're part of MACPOL, you have a bigger audience now. The directions for call for proposals are in there.
Are we offering, are you offering, as you did last year, for students to go and do roundtable presentation or whatever, and paying for accommodations?
We felt that being at a casino, it wasn't really the right environment to have kids come up. Fortunately, Kalahari was just so ideal.
Right.
But we're really hesitant, and it's out of state, and we were just a little worried about that. But we are going to do the teacher panel again, so Holly, you'll be getting an email soon. But I'll make it up for you, okay? April,
Pass it
I'll
on
make
to
it up for
John.
you.
Oh my God, John's already ready to kill me. He's like, what did you do?
So, yeah, we're not going to have the students, unfortunately. You'll see when you go there. It's a casino. Even though the conference center is separate, we're just a little concerned about students and public perception.
What's the deadline again?
Early bird ends November 9th. And I think our registration closes early January. So please don't wait. Now, some of you have asked for more codes. We're waiting for those that haven't registered to use up their codes, but at some point, codes that haven't been used, we will redistribute to districts to bring more people. Every district in IU-15 got 3 codes right off the bat. That's more than anybody else in the consortium because you guys are the best. And we always have the most attendees. But if you need more, just sit tight and we might be able to get you more. We're just waiting for the other IUs to kind of use up what we've divvied out. And I'm all about let's sell out the conference. So vendors, we didn't have a lot to talk about with the exception of the 2 vendors. You already heard from Odysseyware. We didn't have any updates for Apex. We didn't have any updates for Accelerate Ed. So just Edison with the outages. I don't even know what to tell you guys. Supposedly these last outages were not their fault. They had to do with the company that they're working with. I'm just as frustrated as you that we're seeing these outages and we're seeing some cracks, and I just strongly recommend that you try some other vendors. That's all I can say. We are not stopping, we're not cutting our ties with Edison until it gets to the point that that's what we have to do. So as long as Edison is there, we will continue to use them. But I think that we have strong vendors that don't have outages, that don't change policies right away, that give us a little more heads up. So just keep that in mind. Do what you need to do to make your program fabulous, and we'll continue to support you with that, whatever vendor you use. But we're frustrated with the outages too, and I hope that they have fixed the problem. eDynamics, there's still some of their courses. So, I think we talked about this last month. When they pushed in and we had to do that sudden integration, which, I'll say wasn't by choice, but by need, they pushed in year-long courses, and there's just a lack of understanding their curriculum. They've now taken those year-long courses and broke them into semester. But the second semester is still being built out, and they'll be ready November 23rd. So semester A is ready, and you guys are probably using them. Semester B will be ready November 23rd for second semester enrollment. So that should help a little bit of trying to understand how these courses fill out the whole year. Any questions about eDynamic? Are there any problems we need to know about or concerns?
If something would happen with Edison, eDynamic is completely separate, correct?
eDynamic is completely separate. We have a separate contract. They are no longer tied with Edison. Edison can't sell eDynamic. Let me say it that way. And yeah, so let us know. This is a new vendor for us to work directly with, just like Odysseyware. So we're really, really, really relying on you guys to let us know if there's problems. Because if there's no news, we think everything's great. And so far, we've heard no news that we need to act upon about eDynamics or Odysseyware. So speak up, please. Because I don't want to be the fool saying everything's great and then I find out it's not because nobody told me. Okay, so questions and answers. Concerns?
I have a question
Yeah.
for everyone. We're running into the problem that if we extend deadlines, for example, through the summer, and kids don't do the work, then they threaten to go somewhere else. How do you keep them here with it and still say end dates?
So what do you mean? You give them all summer and the school year to complete a course, and they don't, so you crack down on them, and they say, forget you, I'm leaving?
Yeah.
I don't know how to solve that problem.
Tell them to go.
I think it'd be nice for feedback from other schools, like how do you guys handle that?
Kristen knows our
Yeah,
situation.
there's a couple kids that we are dealing with right now that.
So we've just started to say to students, go.
Go.
Because we found that sometimes when you challenge them
They
and you
don't.
tell them to go, they don't go. Or they go and they find out that other vendor is just like us, and then they want to come back because, like, for our students, we allow them to participate in our graduation and all of that stuff. So they go and they've lost all that. So that was actually came from our superintendent, because I kind of went to him and I said the same thing. I said, we've got these kids, they're not measuring up to our standards, but I really don't want them in the program. They're not doing what they need to do. And he said, challenge them, tell them to go, tell them to pick another program, tell them they're out. And that's what we did. And for us, it's worked fine.
Right. Ours are saying
Your superintendent isn't supporting that? Your new superintendent?
dollars.
Really? I'm kind of
dollars.
shocked.
Yeah.
that we
Dollar
did the
bills.
year.
Once everyone back.
If they want to
But-
keep, I said, do you want to fight for this one? And the response was, I want to fight for all of them.
Well, that's of course a superintendent answer. I want to fight for all kids.
But they're all saying, I mean,
But they also negatively affect the district if
Mhm.
they
Yes.
don't graduate.
Yes.
And so, like, at the end of the day, if you've got those kids that aren't doing the work, you know, it's sort of you got to look at it from all aspects of it. It's not just the dollars.
it's just dollars to them.
They'll come back.
We do.
Yeah. They will.
They always do. Brielle, what were you were saying?
No, we challenge them and say, go ahead and go. And if they can't make it on our online, they're
Correct.
not going to make it
Exactly.
somewhere else.
Exactly.
So it's only a matter of sometimes 10 days till they don't log in and don't do what they're supposed to do.
And the cyber charter schools will kick them out.
They'll kick them out.
They don't
They
even
have to
have the
come back.
choice. They'll just say you're withdrawn.
Right.
Unlike you guys can't do that, but cyber charter schools can withdraw students.
Especially if it's a kid of age, truancy issues and stuff like that, they'll come back.
It's sad that we, like the big picture, the emotional support of it is why did these kids get to this point? What's going on that they've gotten to the point in their life that school is not a solution for them, and that makes me frustrated. And it could be the home, it could be whatever. And I wish we could fix that problem. Like, when did it go bad for the student? If we could go back in time and fix that moment, because this didn't just happen overnight. Something's accumulated to get them to that point. And I don't have the solution to that. I'm just speaking about empathy. I don't know. It makes me frustrated that kids get to that point, that they turn their back on school. Anything else? I'm not trying to rush anybody.
Real quick, we had a couple ideas come from the staff internally that I wanted to bring to you guys, see if it would be helpful. One is under the academic snapshot. Would you like the additional column of the end date next to the start date?
Yeah.
fine.
Please.
Favor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it to a vote.
I guess it's yes.
Yeah. We get and then the other one is under the academic snapshot on the student dashboard, having start and end date as well here for the student to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see.
Yours.
Yep. All right.
There's some talk about re-enrolling the kids from part 1 to part 2 and
That
just
is
clicking
on
a button.
Edison's roadmap. Can I just say, it's been on the
That time
road
of the
3 years now. 3 years.
And I'm waiting
3.
for it.
And they keep saying, these are things that I'm getting frustrated about when it comes to service to our consortium. We are their largest customer. Get me started. We're their
So on the road,
largest
that would
customer.
save about 6 hours of
It's
just
supposedly, we
bang.
just talked about it yesterday, and I put some pressure again because it keeps getting bumped. Sometime this year, you should see it. Isn't that nice? And could be
or they'll ask-
fall, it could be winter. Those are the two that kind of were discussed. It seems like it's getting pushed into their, I think it's 2 sprints away. But yeah.
Is it still on the roadmap that when we enroll a kid with an IEP and we mark it and we put all those adaptations in under Genius as far as adapted answers or questions, that it rolls into the next part instead of having to go in and click it again?
It's on the roadmap. I know. I know. Yeah. Things used to be done much more quickly, and make your choice with
I'm just
your
speaking
dollars.
for myself,
I'm here with you.
but if OdysseyWare can get lined up with similarity
Mhm.
to the familiarity of Edison,
Great.
Yeah.
we could make major switch
Yeah.
there. It's about the familiarity and
I
the
know.
layout
Yeah.
and things like that. But if they can do it,
Yeah.
then
That's what we've been working hard. That's why I said that, we try to streamline as much as we could so that when you saw comprehensive, you're like, oh, I know what that means, because that's a term. Foundations, I knew they renamed those things just for us because that's what I was trying to. I would like to eliminate the extra cost for the extended services, their special ed part. That's something I'm working with them. We don't pay extra with other vendors. Why? But they justify it. And I said, well, we'll see. But there's things that I'm working on. But if you guys could give us a short list of some of the things that you would like, that would be good.
They have to break it down into parts.
Yeah, that discussion's
I
already
mean,
happened.
before we make any change, it's gonna have to be mark period 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly.
Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, because
Yep.
for us to calculate
Flexibility
attendance,
too.
it's, kids coming in, second
Yep.
marking period, third marking period, it's just as easy to put them in
Yep.
there instead of
Yep.
starting them at the beginning. I
can't-
mean, I can't
describe-
justify changing unless that happens.
I'm with you.
I have to count
Yeah.
all these e-dynamics courses that my kids are in. And they're like, well, where do I need to be by the end of the marking period to get that grade? I got to go in there and I got to count. Well, it's got 27 lessons.
Yep.
You need to be on lesson 7 or 8. But this one's got 52 lessons.
Yeah.
So
That's the one challenge with having this many vendors. Like I said, that's a plus for Edison is the lesson structure was simple. It used to be. They kind of moved away with the project-based learning, but it was still pretty set, 35 lessons or 45. With new vendors, there is not that consistency that every course has the same number of lessons, but we think that we might have solved that, which we'll be releasing soon. We're still in prototype.
And that was part of the reason why we brought up adding the start and end date to the student screen, is because I'm an advisor, so I do attendance for different school districts. And that's an issue I see is when I'm doing attendance with semester-based courses, students want to know how far they go. And the other thing is they don't know which courses are semester and which courses are quarter. So that was another reason why we brought up, what if we add the start and end date? At least we can use that as a focal point for the students so they know, hey, I have to have half because this isn't due until January.
Yep.
Or this isn't due till March or whatever the situation is. So it's not a perfect solution at this time, but it's a solution until we can make some changes or whatever changes are going to come down the pipeline to hopefully break it down.
And there's
apart
no
in the
way to
future.
stop like e-dynamics when they get to lesson 27, it doesn't allow them to go any further.
No.
There's no way to do that.
There's no way to stop them from progressing at that point.
Something we can ask them to look into
I mean, if
after
they
they finish breaking out their courses.
if they could just, okay, there's 44 lessons, but after lesson 22, they can't go further until the start of the second marking period.
Yeah, and that can certainly be something that we can bring
Turn
up.
it off.
See if there's a way that could be controlled at the district level is what I would prefer.
Because what's going to happen is if they do 2 lessons beyond that, you got to go back in and basically hand calculate their grades.
Yeah.
That's the other part that we're going to run into at the change of the marking periods. And grades are weighted differently in these things. So if they get to the midterm and in some course and not the other, it's.
I've got kids taking semester classes that'll get it done in 3 weeks just because they knock it out. But what's my grade supposed to be for quarter 1 and quarter 2? I'm not going to go in and calculate exactly what it was. It's going to be whatever that grade is overall.
Yeah, but for those kids that didn't complete that whole course, like, how are you?
Yeah, they didn't hit that lesson
period
number.
grade.
They needed an 8 and they got 5 done.
Yeah.
So how
You
do
gotta
I
get
figure out
zero.
the 3
You got to
0?
figure that.
I got to
out.
figure that out.
Yep. Because you can't get non-running grade because that calculates the
rest of
second marking.
What
period,
I'm
which is
going
a
to do,
nightmare.
so we've already started this discussion with Odyssey where, I went out there in August to their headquarters and I said, here are some hurdles that you're going to have to tackle to get schools to switch to OdysseyWare. And I identified breaking it into parts, the extended services cost, the visor role, the parent role. There's a couple identified. And they jumped right on about breaking things into parts. It's just a lot of work. So they're thinking, well, maybe we could start with the core courses, and then like stagger on out that in 3 years, all their courses would be in parts. They're trying to figure out how they tackle 180 some courses and break them into parts. It's not easy. So they are actively looking at this. And that's why I wanted you guys to speak up so that they're not just hearing my voice, that they heard. And this is the second meeting or third they've asked that question. Everybody said yes. It'd be nice. It just gives you flexibility too. Why pay for more of a course than you need? That's what it comes down to from my point of view. Why pay for a semester if you only need a marking period?
But we can also talk to eDynamic about breaking it down further as well.
Yeah.
And that could be a conversation we have for course catalog for next year, see if that's something maybe we can accomplish.
I mean, a prime example, we're paying for a semester course if the kid drops out or comes back or, doesn't like the elective. I mean, we're stuck.
Yeah.
Paying that money.
Yep.
That might be something you could do with the course catalog is how many parts is there
Yeah.
per class.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Like
I'll
for
write
the
that down.
electives, I could tell my kids going to electives, 2 parts
By parts.
because a part is a quarter credit. So if I need them to have a half credit, then I can say search, your two-parters.
Okay. That'd be good.
That's a good suggestion.
All right, anything else? Great discussion. And please keep giving us input because the newer partnerships, if they want to work with us, and I know they do, they need to listen to what we have to say. And I know they do want to work with us. We are very fortunate now that this consortium is so large that we have a lot of buying power or influence on the companies that we work with. 116 school districts are in the state of Pennsylvania are part of our consortium. That gives us a lot of say in how we run the program with vendors. And that's a good position to be in. So speaking towards Odyssey, where I'm really blown away every time I meet with them, the level of support, but we've also earned that level of support too by being the size that we are. So this input is helpful to hear. Anything else? Please register for ColdCon. We need to see more of you there. I'm hoping all of you will come.
We had to wait for board approval.
What do you need our help with to get board approval? The agenda?
No, we got it. We're getting it. It's
good.
on today.
So
or
who's
this
coming
month,
from?
but I'm not going to
Who's
register.
coming from yours? Is Troy going?
I don't think so. Just Nick and I in high school as of now.
Yeah.
So we got an extra seat that we'd be willing to give to
Exactly.
Adam.
See, I know.
I'm begging.
I know. Christine Matash is
It's in
on
my
this
notes to
week.
Christine
You're
right
the
now. If I
first
can go
one.
through this code, can I go?
We'll give him our code. He can register under.
There you go. There. Do it informally.
We can. We will.
All right.
Not a
No,
saying no.
nothing.
What's that?
I'm here. She's in charge of the code, so we will redistribute. I'm confident. Giving 3 to each school. We know there's some schools that aren't sending 3 people. We know this. We know that we have not necessarily an RIU, but other IUs. Half the districts don't even come, but we allotted codes for everyone. So we're going to have plenty to redistribute. So. Okay, I think we're good. We'll see you guys next month. Don't forget that we have what Brian has training sessions every month. Please attend them. We're sending them out as a listserv. We have the Cold Connections blog